Did you know that chronic disease and chronic inflammation go hand in hand? In this episode, I'm going to give you some ways that you can prevent both. Hi, I'm Stephanie Phillips Markstein, and I help health conscious people optimize their physical and emotional well-being so that they can show up in the world as the best version of themselves. So let's talk about inflammation for a moment, just so that I know that we're all on the same page. You probably think of inflammation as like a swelling, like when you twist your ankle, or muscles after an intense workout. But there's another type of inflammation that has a big impact on your health, and that is chronic systemic inflammation. So this type of inflammation, this chronic systemic inflammation, is the kind that's associated with a slew of health conditions. Now, you might have heard that exercise can actually help to quell this type of inflammation, and it can. Recent research suggests that moderate treadmill exercise actually boosts the immune cells' production of compounds that regulate both local and systemic inflammation. In as little as 20 minutes, scientists who did this research noticed that there were changes in the biomarkers for inflammation. So, along with exercise, diet is an important piece of trying to keep inflammation out of our body. And while there isn't really a one-size-fits-all, anti-inflammatory diet, there are some best practices. So we're going to go over those. But before we do that, I want to talk about what inflammation really is. So inflammation is actually a natural response, and it's essential within the immune system because when the immune system senses an immediate threat, like a cold virus or a damaged cells from a cut, it triggers something called the inflammatory response. So again, this is a natural, important part of the way our bodies are supposed to function. And what happens when the inflammatory response occurs, it stimulates the cells to protect against whatever attackers are supposedly attacking the body. So when is inflammation a problem? Well, there are basically three types of times when inflammation is an issue. Sometimes when the immune system triggers an inflammatory response to something that isn't an actual threat, that's one time when the inflammatory response actually isn't very good. And that would be in an example like with people with allergies. So when people have severe allergies, the body responds to something that would normally be not that big a deal, like pet dander or dust or mold mold's probably not a good thing for anybody. But the truth is that some people don't have any response to mold. But people with allergic reactions, who have issues with pollen or dust or anything like that, their body looks at those substances as toxic and sends out the inflammatory response to deal with those attackers. In people who have autoimmune diseases, the immune system actually is directed at healthy cells, which then causes the inflammation. So the immune system actually attacks itself with people with an autoimmune disease. So that's not a good thing. That kind of inflammation is not good. And that's, the other time is when inflammation is caused by chronic stress. And this is kind of like opening the floodgates to a dam. So while the inflammatory response is crucial when the body actually needs it, the problem happens when when inflammation doesn't abate, when it just continues, ongoing and doesn't ever go away. So chronic inflammation is associated with all kinds of health issues such as diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, irritable bowel syndrome, obesity, arthritis, and others. So, it's important that we get a grip on inflammation. And as I said, along with exercise, diet is an important piece of that. So before we go into, I want to talk about the top 5 principles for an anti-inflammatory diet. But before we do that, speaking of diet, I want to tell you that in every episode, I try to have a powerful resource that will help you, that will provide value. And in this episode, I have actually created a free PDF guide called Keto for Beginners. So if you or someone you know has wanted to try, if you've wanted to get into the keto lifestyle and you want to try the ketogenic diet, but you don't know how to start, it's too confusing, there are too many pieces to it. I've actually made an easy for you guide on implementing the keto lifestyle. And in doing so, you get questions and answers related to how to implement it properly. You get 3 exercises that help to trim the waist, and you get 2 keto-friendly recipes, as well as some bonuses at the back. So if you are interested in getting Keto for Beginners, just click on the link below and I will post it, and you can pick it up there. I'm excited for you to pick it up, and when you do, I would love to have a conversation with you about it afterwards. So click on find me on Messenger, Stephanie Phillips Markstein, and friend me on Facebook, or message me on Messenger, and we can have a discussion about it. So back to our top 5 principles of the anti-inflammatory diet. Number 1, you need to have at least 25 grams of fiber. Now, daily, by the way. And this is a tall order for a lot of Americans. We tend to eat a lot of bagged and processed boxed foods, which have had the fiber stripped out of them. You want to find fiber in fruits and vegetables and other whole foods, preferably not things that are in boxes and bags, because those just aren't whole foods. If they have ingredients, they're not whole foods. You want to choose things that come from the earth, foods that come directly from Mother Nature. And by the way, in the realm of the processed foods, juice falls into that category. So a lot of times, people they love juice, and they like to, the juicing thing was a really big thing for a while. I don't know if it's still as popular now, but juicing was really popular, and people still like to do a lot of smoothies. And if you are putting juice in your smoothies, or just drinking orange juice on its own, or apple juice or whatever, you're missing the fiber, because when they process the juice, they pull the fiber out. So it's better to just have an orange or have an apple, because then you're getting an actual, you're getting a lot of fiber from the original fruit. Number 2, you should have at least, and this is going to sound like a lot, at least 7 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit every day. Now, before you think that that's not doable, I want to tell you what a serving is, because a serving size is probably a lot less than you think it is. A serving size for fruit is half a cup. So if you were to take a piece of fruit and cut it up, it would fill up half a cup. So I'm thinking that's about half an apple, not a whole apple, especially if it's a good sized apple. If you were to have vegetables, it's a half a cup of cooked vegetables, or 1 cup of raw vegetables. Now think about that. If you have a cup of spinach, say, you smash a cup of spinach, bunch of raw spinach into a measuring cup. When you cook that spinach, it cooks down to 3 tablespoons. So it's really not as much as you think it is. So get those vegetables and fruits in your diet daily. Number 3 is to eat at least 4 servings of alliums and crucifers weekly. So what are alliums and crucifers? Well, I'm going to tell you. Alliums fall into they're kind of in the onion category. So it's onions, garlic, scallions, and leeks. And garlic, is really a wonderful anti-inflammatory food, and it tastes great, and it makes your food taste wonderful. So, you can add garlic weekly to your diet, and a serving of garlic is very small serving. So, getting 4 servings of alliums and crucifers weekly is not a big deal. Crucifers they fall into the broccoli and cauliflower family, which also includes cabbage, mustard greens, and Brussels sprouts. So roast up your Brussels sprouts, steam your broccoli, roast your cauliflower, and you'll be good to go on that. Number 4 is to get a healthy serving of omega-3 fatty acids. Now, typically omega-3s fall into the category of fish, but you can also, if you're not a fish lover, especially salmon has a lot of omega-3 in it. If you're not a fish eater, you can get it from flax meal and also nuts, especially walnuts. Now, flax meal, you might say, well, what, can I have flax seeds? You can, But flax seeds tend to not be metabolized correctly by the body. In other words, they go in one end and they come out the other end whole. So they actually don't really get metabolized the way meal does. So the best thing to do is to take your flax seeds and make it into a meal. You can sprinkle that on cereal, you can add it to smoothies, you can add it on salads. There are a lot of different ways that you can add, and you can put it in soup. I mean, there are a lot of ways you can add flax meal to food without even really knowing it's there. And it doesn't have a lot of flavor. It's very mild, so you mostly don't even know it's there. In fact, you can even put it on ice cream and you probably wouldn't even know. I mean, you'd see it, but you probably wouldn't taste it. So omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation, and they may lower risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and arthritis. That research is still ongoing, but the anti-inflammatory piece of it is well documented. So get your omega-3s. We have a very bad habit in this country, especially, of getting too many omega-6s. And omega-6s come from all those things we shouldn't be eating. So if we could just up our omega-3s and lower our omega-6s, we'd be a lot healthier. The last principle of an anti-inflammatory diet is to swap in unsaturated fats. And those you get mainly from vegetables, but also from nuts and seeds. So veggies, nuts, and seeds. So I realize that there are a lot of this stuff kind of overlaps, and that's okay. I mean, you're getting vegetables in 2 or 3 different categories of the 5 principles of the anti-inflammatory diet, and that's all good. So so I hope this has been helpful. I hope this is valuable. If you enjoy what you're getting from me, I would appreciate it if you could like it or even share my YouTube video episodes. And also, if you are interested in trying the keto diet, I urge you to click on the link below and pick up that, just click on that link and it'll go right to the offer to get the free PDF for Keto for Beginners. So I hope this has been helpful, and love to see you guys on the next episode, which will be next Thursday. See you soon.